Well, education savings accounts are a lot like all of the other schemes to take public funds out of the public education system and put them into private schools or another type of education system. So really what it comes down to is ESAs and other things just like it are vouchers. And that's exactly what this plan would do, is take money from the public education system and put it into private schools or homeschools or something other than the public education system.
So $5,200 out of the district into the hands of the family. Talk to me about what could happen if that were to pass.
Well, one of the things that we can expect to see, based on some pretty steady numbers of homeschool students and private school students across the state, is that it would cost $7 to $9 billion every single year, and that's just those students coming into the system, not students that are currently using it, but students that would come into the system every single year and have access to those funds. And so if we have that many students coming in and it's costing the state that much, but at the same time we're not also raising funds and we're not raising taxes somewhere or getting money elsewhere, we're going to see a huge hit to the public education system funding and really the budget as a whole. But as we've seen in the past, when money isn't coming in to the general budget in Texas, public ed gets cut.
In your view, I would imagine make the whole funding situation extremely worse.
Sure. You know, what this is doing, what vouchers are doing, and what ESAs, no matter what you call it, an ESA, a tax credit, or a voucher, it's taking money away from the public education system, and it's taking it away from a system that's already cash-strapped, and it's doing it with no accountability to the taxpayer. And so it's really pretty frightening and could really hurt the public education system.
What are you hearing on why lawmakers in the House don't like this?
You know, I think we saw earlier this week that lawmakers in the House are really thoughtfully considering this. Meanwhile, in the Senate, they, have taken a different approach. They're very focused on it. It's a top priority of the lieutenant governor and other members within the Senate, and they're very focused on seeing this move through. So in the House, where they're looking at it, and they are looking at both sides of the debate, and they're really considering things, it's interesting. This is a great example of the public education community coming out and saying, this is not the right approach, this is wrong. And meanwhile, lawmakers and politicians are taking a completely political approach and saying, well, let's disregard all of the public educators and pastors and parents and administrators and teachers all across the board that are saying, this is not the right approach. They're ignoring that and saying, well, we think it is. Let's move forward on a political basis.
This is part of a reform movement, right? I mean, that is. Give me some background on the reform movement. I mean, how long have these efforts been going on, and what's been stopping them?
Sure. Well, we've seen these reform movements popping up over a number of years. I mean, it's not necessarily anything new. I think the ways school choice has long been a part of that approach. Maybe some of the other more specific proposals, A through F, parent trigger, some of the things we've seen in the past in Texas, that approach may have changed slightly, and some of those proposals have probably changed. But it all comes down to the fact that, it's a very political approach to reforming schools. And what these politicians who are taking this political approach aren't doing is listening to the public education community that is saying, this is the wrong approach. Vouchers are not going to help. We need to be wrapping services around these community schools and these students.